Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. Pretty interesting video that just came out, eh? That video's actually been planned for a while now, and I finally managed to release it because, big project finally ended, whatever. And I would assume maybe the main topic of this episode is going to be a little interesting, but before we get into that, let's get right into the news. First, there's a new story that kind of started last week. It kind of started before the last episode, but this week has kind of been a lot more there's been a lot more updates to the story. And it all revolves around the Mexico judiciary overhaul. Because if you don't know, AMLO, for a little bit of, at least for the remainder of his term, has been trying to overhaul the judicial system and the election system in Mexico. It's one of the last things that he wants to do before he leaves office. As we all know, when AMLO got into office, he wanted to do a lot of things, but now he's kind of had to moderate a lot of his stances, and now he's kind of essentially trying to push through a last minute change. And this is one big change that he wants to do. His plan is to make it so that the judges in Mexico are elected to their positions rather than going and being appointed to their positions, while simultaneously also overhauling the entire system as it is. It's also supposed to coincide with general election changes where he wants to shrink the legislature a little bit and also make it so that the process is more streamlined. And a lot of people a lot of the right wing in Mexico and America have been very mad at this position because they believe that this will erode democracy in Mexico. Wait, hold on. AMLO wants to have the justices be appointed through democratic elections, and yet that's somehow undemocratic? What? How the fuck does that make sense at all? It doesn't, but that's what the media is literally going around saying. They're saying that literally, the protests are literally framed as AMLO, you need to respect democracy. When it's he is trying to implement more democracy. What are you talking about? The only thing that is even remotely close to a criticism in this regard is that some people argue that people who are not qualified to be the justices will be elected under this position, and the justices will become a lot more partisan. But, buddy, the justice system and all this stuff is already, it's already bad like this. The justices and stuff are already partisan. You really think that the guys who were appointed under Enrique Peña Nieto or fucking Vicente Fox are less, right-wing than the ones that AMLO appointed? And this is a little bit weirder because, one of the big things is that, many people are saying that this could potentially do because one of the big criticisms towards AMLO and towards Morena and towards all the left-wing parties in Mexico prior to now was always that they were afraid that AMLO was going to reform the Constitution of Mexico. He was going to change it. And AMLO has been saying that he wants to institute some constitutional amendments and referendums to change the Constitution. Literally, in the last leg of AMLO's administration, he has literally proposed 18 to 20 constitutional amendments to, he wants to do this. And these are literally the list of them that I could find. A right to food, healthy environment, and water, protection of health, railways, energy and telecommunications, pensions, reforms to the judiciary, reforms to the electoral branch, simplification, dissolution of certain regulatory entities, a reforming of the National Guard, civil servant remunerations, modification of ISSSTE laws, reductions of the federal public administration, increasing the rights of indigenous and Afro-Mexican people, rights to people with disabilities and seniors, adding raising the wages, comprehensive, universal, and free medical care, instituting federal housing, allowance of giving an allowance to unemployment youths, reformation of the criminal law, and animal rights. Like, literally, those are like some of the big things that he's been proposing to do in this final round. And it looks like the one that he's prioritizing right now is the judiciary reform, that he wants to make it so that the judges are elected. And yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily see a problem with that. Really, I don't see a relatively big problem with it. And these things are becoming a lot more likely as certain things have been happening in the Mexican election system that have been going on. Like, such as the case when it was revealed that after the final tabulation of the results, AMLO's party would get 73% of the seats in the lower legislature, the Chamber of Deputies, which gives him a 2/3 majority needed for constitutional reforms. But he needs a 2/3 majority in both legislatures. And it actually looks like AMLO is getting closer to even getting that 2/3 majority for Scheinbaum, because 2 members of the PRD have announced that they have defected and have now joined Morena, which makes them ever so closer to the 2/3 majority in the Senate. So it looks like Scheinbaum literally will be able to do a lot more than AMLO has done, and hopefully she uses that power for good. Speaking of power and good, let's check out the opposite of that. France, because there's been a drama with their legislature. If you remember, the most recent French election had the New Popular Front, a left-wing coalition, win the most seats out of all of the parties. And despite the fact that they have been protesting about the fact that they don't want to form an alliance with either Macron's party or Le Pen's party, they've stated they want to go ahead and simply get the prime ministership because, again, they're the ones with the leading party, so they have to be the one. So, like, we should be the one with the prime minister. And there was a lot of drama about who they would choose to be the prime minister candidate, because in the election, they never made it clear who they would choose to be the prime minister candidate. Especially, they didn't make it known which party they would go with one of the biggest fears being that they would pick a candidate from La France Insoumise, the party that is effectively the furthest left party in French politics, outside of like the 2 Trotskyist or like communist parties like to their left. Not to be confused with the French Communist Party, which we'll get back to in a second. But many of the center-left parties propose that they would probably be better suited to be the prime minister, just to make sure that the French liberals would probably be okay with them. So, after all was said and done, they all agreed, like the New Popular Front decided that it would be best to propose a member of the French Socialist Party, which is the furthest right of the left-wing parties, I guess. That kind of depends on your interpretation of like the EELV and the French Socialist Party. They have like both like claims to be the furthest right of the French left. And like this person was intended to be the compromised candidate. Like, yeah, like the French Insoumise, like, yeah, we're going to pick this guy because we think that he's going to be the best, like he or she is going to be the best choice for you. But Macron made the stunning announcement saying, no, I refuse to give you guys the prime minister. Like, he just openly said, no, you guys will not be getting a prime minister. And everyone's like, what? What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? We won, so we should be getting the prime minister seat. And he's just like, nope, you guys are not getting the prime minister. I'm not appointing a prime minister of the New Popular Front Alliance. And what is interesting is that he has literally, like Macron, literally went to the party leaders of the Socialists, the EELV, and the Communist Party and told them, I'm open with working with you guys. I'm not open to working with La France Insoumise. If you guys form a coalition with one of the other parties in the legislature, I'll be more than happy to give you guys leadership positions, but as long as La France Insoumise is not a part of it. Now, on a first glance, you might be very confused about the fact that he is okay with working with the French Communist Party, but not okay working with La France Insoumise. But this is where I'm going to have to explain a little bit about the two parties if you don't know. You see, La France Insoumise, as I said before, is effectively the furthest left party in France of like the mainstream electoral like political parties. But you might say, well, wouldn't the French Communist Party make more sense to be the furthest left party? In a sense, yes. and even on Wikipedia, it is listed as a far-left party. But one of the biggest differences between the French Communists, because if you remember the last French presidential election, I might include like a pinned thing about like the last presidential election there, whatever. And Sunflower Socialist made a video kind of like explaining like the divides amongst the French left. But like in the French left, there are two broad factions: the liberal left and the anti-liberal left. The liberal left is where the socialists and the EELV come in. They are the French left that is okay and open to working with liberals. Meanwhile, the anti-liberal left is where the hardliners in the French left usually reside, which would be Mélenchon, the Communist Party, and basically anybody to their left. But the biggest difference between the French Communist Party, but the problem is, like, usually these alliances would work together in elections. But what ended up happening was that in the most recent presidential election in France, these four political parties split up. They all were like, we don't like each other for whatever reason. The EELV was very focused on the environment and felt that the rest of the parties were not really that focused on the environment, which is bullshit considering Mélenchon was in the race, but he was a scary socialist. Ooh. The Socialist Party was afraid because, Mélenchon was a scary socialist. Ooh. Because they had a neoliberal turn at one point during their previous administrations. And the French Communist Party, they had a bit of a problem because they viewed Mélenchon, for lack of a better term, as a woke leftist. He was too woke for them because he was prioritizing things like social issues, and he was even a vegan, which was at one point an attack against him, where Fabien Roussel, the leader and the presidential candidate of the French Communist Party, is like, oh, I eat meat like a real French worker, not like he's basically trying to shit on Mélenchon for being a vegetarian or a vegan. And this divide between these four parties is what has finally led to the French left deciding to get their shit together and align into one political force, because they realized that literally was the wake-up call, because in that election, Mélenchon was literally 1 point away from getting into the runoff with Macron, and those other three parties got more than 1% of the vote. So people were theorizing, if literally any of them had dropped out and endorsed Mélenchon, then Mélenchon would have probably had a better chance making it to the runoff. Would he have won? I don't know. They didn't really pull that idea because they rightfully predicted that Mélenchon wouldn't be able to get it to the runoff because of the divide in the French left. And what's worse is, this is literally not the first time the French left was so divided that they fucked themselves over. The same thing happened in 2002, where the French left was so divided that they accidentally led to a runoff with a literal fascist on the ballot, which led to quite literally one of the most lopsided presidential elections in a fair and democratic society. And, yeah. Hopefully the French left is able to, I don't know if they will be able to get their prime minister, which is a sad truth, because I don't think, it's even to the point where Macron is apparently meeting with Le Pen to talk about, an idea of forming a government, and it's yeah, that stinks. But anyways, hopefully this momentum will at the very least carry over to the next election. Speaking of momentum and democracy, we're going to see some opposite of that in this story. The Labour Party has announced that they're proposing the idea of stripping members of voting for future leadership elections. According to the Labour Party, senior figures in the Labour Party are pushing for a controversial rule change at next month's party conference, which would change the way Labour elects its leader if the party is in power. The scheme is viewed as a way to avoid a repeat of Tory leadership contests in 2022, when Tory members made Truss leader despite her not having the support of the majority of MPs. The contest also lasted nearly 2 months, with 6 weeks taken up by a runoff ballot, which members between Truss and Rishi Sunak, while the energy prices continue mounted. Allies to Starmer believe a similar scenario should be avoided at all cost by reforming how his successor is elected if the party is still in government. They only want MPs to have a say over who should succeed Starmer as leader. Those behind the move also believe the timing is right for Starmer to use his first party conference as prime minister to tighten the center-left's grip of the power on the party, which is not true. The center-left does not have control of the party. The center-left was kicked out of the party. And Yeah, most people have kind of pieced together that this isn't a ploy to stop a Liz Truss. This is a ploy to stop the next Jeremy Corbyn, because, like, at least for now, because apparently the rule is going to still be, like, the members can still vote if the Labour Party is out of power, but if the Labour Party remains in power, then it could potentially just fall onto the members of Parliament, which doesn't bode well for... This is one of the fucking strangest things. Like, the Labour Party is literally just becoming Tory 2.0. Like, doesn't this sound like something that the Tory Party would do? Like, oh, we're just gonna make it so that the people in charge, like the ones who are smart, we're the ones who are gonna be the ones who are gonna choose who's the next leader. Not, like you. And remember, the Labour Party was mad that they got to keep picking the Prime Minister 15 million times. And it's like, no, you gotta call for a general election because you keep choosing a new parliament leader. And we need to, like, vote on who this person is. This goes like a complete antithesis of what the Labour Party stands for. Which makes sense, considering they're literally pushing harder for the Labour Party to not be what the Labour Party stands for. Hopefully Corbyn will be able to start that left-wing party soon, my friends. Because if he can't, then left-wing politics in the UK is probably dead. At least unless you literally live in one of the 3 countries that they're forcibly making you be part of the UK. Like, literally, Corbyn, call the SNP, call the Plaid Cymru, call Sinn Féin, literally be like, hey guys, plan. You guys help me and, like, support me in a brand new political party across the United Kingdom. First thing that's going to come into the agenda, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, a vote on whether you guys get to stay in. I think that's kind of isn't that the perfect symbology? The Irish, like Sinn Féin, the first and last vote they have in the British Parliament is literally a vote to leave leave Britain. That would be, I think that's like the symbology. That's perfect. Speaking of voting, Israel's got to do some voting real soon because Israel is doing a lot of bad things again. What a surprise. Israel does bad things? There are going to be 2 things that I choose to talk about in this episode about what bad things they did. First, it comes from a clearly not authoritarian fascist thing at all. A political party that I've talked about before, Hadash-Ta'al, had a screening of a movie in Haifa called Jenin 2. Or maybe it's 2 movies. Jenin is 1 and Jenin 2. And the 2 movies are basically... No, it says here that the film is called Jenin 2. It's a film by a Palestinian director named Mohammed Bakri, and it was basically it's a movie about terror and stuff that happened in Jenin. I recognize that name because I covered that story a while ago, and it's one of the like speeches of Hadash-Ta'al leader Ayman Odeh that just keeps coming up. Where after the terror in Jenin, he basically was like, "Free Jenin, free Palestine." And what happened was, when they were screening this movie, or when they were planning on screening this movie, the Israeli police raided their offices and then said the screening is against the court's decision and is suspicion of disorderly conduct. And, coincidentally, the Hadash-Ta'al, when they planned to screen this, it was going to be open to the public and people could go in and pay to see it. And the plan was that the proceeds were going to be donated to the citizens of Gaza who are being bombed to death. And the film's director has importantly talked about this, saying, "The people of Israel should be ashamed that they are silent about genocide. Israel has not been a democracy for a long time. Since the far right came into power, we haven't been living in a democracy. This government is extremist, and the best example of this is the fact that Ben Gvir controls the police, therefore it didn't surprise me." Yeah, and remember, think about this. Remember, there are members of the Israeli government, like, when I say the Israeli government, I don't mean like, oh, like, this random guy from, like, the Knesset. No. I mean, like, when I mean the Israeli government, in the parliamentary system, the government are the people who are the leading figures of the, like judicial, like, the leaders, the people who get to make the rules, the people in the governing coalition. They're literally just like, yeah, time for annexation of a ton of Palestinian land. And I saw this video recently where literally, again, there are some things I just do not understand how this works. There are some people in the West, in like white nations that are literally just like, okay, yeah, I disagree with what Netanyahu does. I disagree with this. I disagree with this. I disagree with this. I disagree with this. I disagree with this policy that Israel does. I disagree with this thing that Israel does. I disagree with this thing Israel does. And they'll list like everything they disagree with Israel, and then they'll be like, but I still support Israel. It's like, what do you mean? Like, and then it like weirdly they work their way around to try and like go around. It does not make any sense to me. There are people that will be like, oh yeah, I'm in favor of a two-state solution, which is why I support Israel. It's like, if you genuinely supported a two-state solution, if you genuinely supported any of the things that you claim to support, Israel would not be who you claim to support. And what they've just announced, and Israel just announced a funny thing that just happened. Turns out that they're invading the West Bank, even though, like literally, Israel launches large-scale West Bank raid as ministry calls for Gaza-style operation. Israel's military carried out raids and airstrikes in multiple parts of the occupied West Bank early Wednesday, killing at least 11 Palestinians in an offensive Israel says is its most expansive yet. The Israeli Defense Forces confirmed it had launched a counter-terror operation overnight with the Israeli Security Agency in areas of Jenin and Tulkarim in the northern part of the West Bank. Now that's odd. I thought the plan was they were getting rid of the Hamas in Gaza. I thought that was the plan. Wait, almost as if maybe that wasn't the idea. Interesting. Perhaps, maybe the plan was not to get rid of Hamas. Also, a recent, like this is a thing, I don't know if I'll separate this or not, but AIPAC officially surpasses 100 million spending in 2024 elections. The American Israeli Public Affairs Committee has spent more than $100 million on federal elections so far this cycle, according to a review of the latest FEC data. AIPAC's PAC spent $44.8 million at the end of July, according to the FEC, with $42 million given to the campaigns of members of Congress and other candidates, as well as to party groups and leadership PACs. The vast majority of AIPAC PAC spending has come in the form of earmarked donations made by individuals to the United States who support pro-Israel groups. AIPAC Super PAC, the United Democracy Project, has spent $55.4 million so far on this election cycle, according to the FEC. More than $35 million of that spending has been on independent expenditures for things like television ads, mailers designed to influence voters, while the rest has been used for operating expenses. This is literally just like, how do we live in this world again? And to those who make the claim, oh, well, AIPAC is in Israel, they meet with Israel every day. Like, dude, they literally have pictures of being like, today we have these members of Congress who are meeting with the lovely Israeli government, and they're blah, blah, blah. It's like, guys. And in before people say like, but what about the other foreign governments that spend money on our elections? Yeah, cool. What about them? Where are they? Where are they? I sure would love to see them. Like, I can't wait for guys. When we live in a world where we have it so that Mexico can literally donate like hundreds of millions of dollars to members of Congress to push the interests of Mexico in the United States, then we can start talking about like, oh, well, maybe we need to talk about the Mexico PACs, like alleged influence in our elections. Maybe we can talk about it then, but we don't live in that world. Mexico does not have a political action committee that gets to dictate policies in America. And the funniest part is that you can't criticize this fact, because if you criticize that, automatically everyone else just randomly goes, Jew, Jew, Jew. Like, this is the weird part. I will say, I will exclusively focus on the policy. I will exclusively focus on the issues that have nothing to do with the religion or the identity. And then magically, everyone else is reductivist and he goes, well, yeah, Jew. Like, that's all you mean, Jew. Like in the same way, if I criticize Barack Obama, the first thing people will say is, oh, you hate black guys, huh? It's not my fault the first thing you think when I say a PAC that is influencing elections. It's not my fault the first thing you think is Jew. It's not my fault that's what you think. Like, again, AIPAC could be like the fucking like American Mexico PAC, AMPAC. They could do that and I'd still be like, hey, this is fucked up if you're doing bad things. Like, if Mexico was committing a genocide against somebody and then was paying the US government to like look the other way, then I'd be like, man, that's fucked up. I also know that fact because I've criticized when other governments have done the exact same thing in the United States. when Saudi Arabia pays the United States to ignore the genocide that they were doing in Yemen, when the Chinese government was spending money for media companies to ignore the Uyghur genocide, and in that same vein, I'm going to bring to attention when Israel pays the United States government to ignore the genocide of the Palestinians. Because they're all bad. Genocide is bad. Speaking of election interference, Texas is literally committing just point-blank election interference because I saw briefly a Vosh segment on this. I saw he tweeted, I saw he posted, so I clicked it, and then I saw, oh wait, he's talking about this? I'm talking about this, so I can't, watch this episode. And I also didn't want to watch the episode because it was, very depressing, but yeah, it's pretty blatant election interference. The nation's oldest Latino civil rights organization, LULAC, is one of several entities in Texas targeted in voter fraud raids led by the state attorney general, Ken Paxton. In a letter first obtained by CBS News, LULAC requested that the Justice Department investigate Paxton's office for Voting Rights Act violations. The organization is accusing Paxton's office of carrying out illegal searches premised on voter fraud. These actions echo a troubling history of voter suppression and intimidation that has long targeted both Black and Latino communities, particularly in states like Texas, where demographic changes have increasingly shifted in the political landscape. The group's national leader, Juan Paraño, stated, with the claim, of course, being they're claiming that they're, investigating organizations that are having non-citizens vote. Which is just, when this data shows, the data just shows that that's just not really true. And it's all, it's a GOP, talking point that's literally just to get, minority voters to not vote. That's literally it. That's literally it. Because why else would they target LULAC specifically, the largest Latino voting rights group in Texas? Again, while bringing up the fact that Latinos are a very large voting population for the Democrats. And in that same breath, they're going to also say, we need Latinos to turn out to vote for Trump. Because this is one of the dumbest things. This is why I can't understand, people who legitimately think, the GOP is making, massive strides in the minority communities. Because it's not true. Because literally every day, the GOP does something that is anti-minority group. Quite literally. This, why would Latinos be oh yes, I'm gonna go register to vote for Republicans, when it's oh yeah, by the way, the largest Latino voting rights group, they got their offices raided because they were suspected of harboring illegal voters, especially when the GOP is literally saying, we're thinking of proposing bills to possibly remove the citizenship status of people who are related to non-citizens. Then would that not literally make that Latino population just magically go now Latino voters just don't exist. It would technically make it so that every voter is not a voter because every person in America is a child of a non-citizen, but shh, you can't talk about that part because that's not the narrative. The narrative is that the brownos are the ones who are the evil ones. And it all stems from things that this is one of the things, it's just so stupid because it's the GOP, this is what the GOP chooses to focus on. They choose to focus on things that are already not issues. It's this non-citizens voting, that's already illegal and a crime, and if a person gets caught doing that, they go to jail. That's already a crime. Why do you need to inflict more punishment? What do you mean? It's already a crime. But the SAVE Act does not make it so that non-citizens can vote in federal elections. That is still not allowed. It just extends that to local elections, because that's one thing as well. That's a debatable question in and of itself. Should non-citizens have the ability to vote in local elections, not federal elections? Federal elections are just a non-issue. They just do not get touched. But local elections are the ones where people are well, if they're a non-citizen, they pay taxes, and they do all the laws, right? And the only quote-unquote crime is that they are a non-citizen. What is the problem of them voting in a local election? I don't necessarily agree nor disagree with this concept, but the fact of the matter is, all this does is remove literal real voters from the voting rolls, such as the case in Alabama. There's a voter named William Pritchett who literally got a letter in the mail saying, yeah, due to the fact that you're a non-citizen, we're going to kick you off the ballot. And he said, what are you talking about? I was born in America, and I'm an American citizen. Literally no data shows a overwhelming majority of non-citizens voting in U.S. elections. That just doesn't happen. And if it's... this doesn't happen. This does not happen. If you are not a legal citizen of the United States, then you can't vote in federal elections. That's already against the law. It's the same arguing talking point about like, oh, but what about what if like, I mean, sure, you get mad about when a cop kills a black person, but what if an illegal immigrant kills a black person? It's like, that's a crime. What are you talking about? That's a crime. That's already against the law. You don't need to institute another law. That is already against the law. All you're doing is virtue signaling to your fucking, like, brain dead idiot, like, pieces of shit, like redneck inbred audiences. That's all you're doing. You're just virtue signaling to them and causing, like, literal actual harm based on what you're actually doing. You're removing literal regular citizens off the voter rolls. So, yeah, that kind of, remember, these are the people who would be in charge if Kamala Harris isn't president. Keep that in mind. Maybe I'll make a video. I'll probably make a video at some point in the future where I'm like, why you still have to vote Democrat. Like, no matter, like, because also I'm seeing this stuff, like, where it's like, oh, Kamala Harris says that she's not going to, like, change that much about the Gaza policy. Oh, Kamala Harris says that she might, like do this thing about immigration. Kamala Harris, blah, blah, blah. It's like, guys, I don't care what Kamala Harris does. I do not give a fuck. I do not care. This is literally it's like Donald Trump and the Republicans. Yeah, when we get into office, we are going to institute literal fascism. And then Kamala Harris is like, oh, yeah, but she's like kind of cringe, dude. Not gonna lie. It's like, I don't care. It's like the Dan Versus clip. It's like, I don't care. They're not changing my mind. And it's the same way where it's like, it doesn't matter what Kamala Harris does now. She can't change my mind to not vote for her. It's like, fuck you then, dude. But anyways, with that out of the way, let's move on to, I guess, what is the main topic. I don't know if this will really be worthy of a main topic. I just wanted to do this topic for a couple of reasons, and I mean, one of them will become pretty obvious at one point. But we've heard of this thing on YouTube. It's been a thing on YouTube for a long period of time. It's called ads. Ads, I mean, we all know what ads are. Ads are when, like, YouTube, like on YouTube or TV or whatever, ads are literally just like commercials or like stuff like that. And, well, on YouTube, there's this advent of ads as well, where you can have an ad right before a YouTube video, or, in a more recent example, where YouTubers will be directly sponsored by another thing. Now, this is not a new thing necessarily. YouTube videos, like sponsored YouTube videos, have been a thing for a long period of time. They just haven't gotten a lot of attention. Like, it literally wasn't until, like, not that long ago that I realized that a video that I loved when I was younger is, like, there were a ton of videos that I loved when I was younger that I really only realized until recently, like, oh shit, those were sponsored videos. Some examples include, the Smosh, like, rap, what's it called? The Smosh, like, Assassin's Creed rap. There was a Asta movie sketch where, like, they had, like, a Tomska, like, was, like, I'm trying to remember, like, Tomska, his thing was that it was Marmite, like, Astafmite, where his whole criticism, like, it was, like, a video where he was, like, talking shit about Marmite, and the joke was that Marmite paid him money to, like, do that. It wasn't until, like, certain things started happening that a lot of YouTubers started realizing, sponsored videos, we need to start, like, making sure, like, it wasn't until, like, it, and that's one of the things, why it was so odd, like, why, back in the olden days, it was literally just so blatantly, obviously, not ads, like, it didn't look like ads, they were just videos. Now, I think people who are older could probably realize they're ads. I know this for a fact, because when I'm older, I look back on those videos, oh wait, yeah, those are obviously fucking ads. And it wasn't until very recently that YouTube started being like, hold on, we actually got to start changing these rules, because one of the big things, like, I mean, the ads right before YouTube video, those were obviously ads, but they were also, like, that's also when they started, like, changing ads as well. Especially when the advent of YouTube channels specifically targeting children. Like, a lot of YouTube channels, like, they didn't, like, explicitly target kids, but they did, like, kinda, like, it was pretty clear, like, for example, Smosh, it's not explicitly a kids channel, but it's pretty obvious that a lot of kids would watch Smosh content. Much the same way that there are a lot of videos nowadays that probably aren't explicitly targeting the kids, but they kinda do, but then YouTube channels started, like, explicitly marketing themselves to kids. You know, like the Ryan's Toy Reviews channels and, like, all that kind of stuff. Those channels started, like, getting, like, very sponsored content as well. But now, since, especially considering the kids that they targeted then are now, like, much younger. Like, when I started watching YouTube when I was, like, I had to have been, like, 7-ish, 7 or 8. And I kind of, like, I mean, kids are stupid. They don't understand commercials. They don't understand ads. They don't understand this kind of stuff. They watch something and they just kind of take it in. And, like, that's why a lot of ads and commercials are targeted specifically towards kids, because they're the easiest to get. They're the easiest to be tricked by the ads. That's why, like, a lot of commercials in the 80s were literally just cartoons. They literally just had cartoons to promote toy brands, and why they had to go through the trouble of literally banning commercials for cigarettes on TV, because kids could watch it and be influenced to watch and like have like smoke. That would be bad. And YouTube got into trouble with that as well, because they kept allowing these like ads to go to children and be like, hold on, we actually have to do something to like make sure that things have changed. Which is why nowadays a lot of YouTube videos will literally have they have a special blurb that begins at the beginning of a video that says like this is a paid advertisement. And why some YouTubers even go so far as to literally like do a lot of things to like make the ad things like more consistent and more like able. One of the big things is like sometimes they'll like when they do an ad break, they'll literally have like a bar at the top or bottom that will literally be used to denote that this segment is an ad, which some people have used and abused to their own capacities, such as Mr. Beast, who literally made an ad bar. I think I might include a link to it somewhere, but like it's a video that exposes this. It's an ad bar that literally starts off really fast. Like randomly, it like, even though he like only covers like the first fourth of the ad, somehow it like ends up at like all the way to the end of the screen. And then right at the end, as the ad keeps playing, the bar just suddenly starts going really, really, really slow, which tricks your brain into thinking that the ad segment is almost over, but the ad just keeps going on, which should probably get him in trouble, because his videos are really targeted towards younger kids. Younger kids love Mr. Beast. I have a younger, like, relative that literally just, they know everything about Mr. Beast, even though they're, like, literally a child, which is probably why Mr. Beast is getting into a lot of trouble very recently. But that's sort of for, like, mainstream YouTube. Political YouTube is where things get a little bit more complicated, because political YouTube, like, ads and a lot of stuff, like, a lot of things changed for YouTube, especially after 2017, like after the alt-right thing. That's when YouTube started taking off a lot of ads off of like mainstream like YouTube, like a lot of like political YouTube, because that meant that they were like, we could be safe and like not propose like ads on like a very dangerous radicals channel. Which is why there are a lot of YouTubers that, like, especially in the political sphere, that kind of like started shifting towards other methods to get their ad revenue, to get their money, you know, like payment sites like Patreon, Subscribestar, that kind of stuff. And then other channels have been like go so far as to even start promoting ads on their YouTube channels, like sponsored segments, especially very recently. Like a lot of YouTubers, especially in mainstream YouTubers, have kind of really started heavily going in on ads. I included some of the most popular ads in the video, like in the thumbnail of this video. You know, a lot of people, like a lot of videos will be like, this video was sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. This episode is brought to you by NordVPN. This episode is brought to you by Surfshark VPN. And in a weird surprise, I literally random YouTubers like, this video is brought to you by Adam, and he was like, what, the lingerie store? Are you kidding me? They're sponsoring YouTube videos now? And there have been a lot of like history YouTubers, again, like, you know, facing sort of issues of demonetization, and a lot of like edge YouTubers kind of starting to focus on sponsored videos. And, well, some people have asked like a couple of questions for me, especially since I complained a little bit about certain things, like, well, why don't you have ads? Why don't you do sponsored videos? Some of that's very obvious. I mean, I don't do sponsorship videos because no sponsors call me. No sponsors have called me at any point in the future. Like, they're not calling me. So, I can't really say that I'm going to do a sponsor segment when nobody will be sponsored. Well, no one will sponsor me, but I wouldn't do it anyways. And I will use this video to go over why I won't / don't / can't do ads or sponsorship videos. Reason number one, and this one is kind of like the biggest one, not the biggest one necessarily, but like a big one. It kind of is like one of the big reasons. Simply, ads suck. Like, I mean, I'm a human being too. I understand that ads stink. We aren't on TV. We all hate commercials. The internet is supposed to be away from commercials. That's kind of like why certain things are the way they are. YouTube is this way because it's supposed to be a counteraction to TV. We're not commercialized. We're not like mainstream corporate. We're the opposite of that. We're the outsiders. We're the new entertainment. And as such, we should get rid of the bad things of the old entertainment, including but not limited to commercials. Like, my philosophy of YouTube is literally this. You go on YouTube, you see a video, you click, and then you play. Like, it just then plays. Like, that should be how YouTube is. And that's why I've rejected a lot of, like, ways that YouTube has changed in a lot of ways. Like, one of the things that is very common nowadays is to have, like, segments where you spoil a part of the video in your video. Like, the first few seconds are literally, like, you spoiling a thing that happens in your video. Because you need to draw people's attention to get into it. When I don't do that. It's also why I don't do typically, like, long openers. Like my most recent video, the one where I talked about Ernest Landine. Literally, it does not... I don't, like, cut to, like, a part where it's like, Ernest Landine is actually a Nazi. Or I don't, like, do, like, a long opening spiel like, yeah, that's a very weird title, isn't it, guys? Blah, blah, blah. Like, no, I don't do that. I literally just start, I go, on this day, this year, Ernest Landine was born. Like, I just get to it. Like, no bullshit, no, just get to it. Same thing with video games. If I ever made a video game, I'm not gonna do, like, 10 million microtransactions or whatever. It's literally just, like, it's like, remember back in the old days where video games were like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and you push start, and you push A, and then you play the game? Interesting concept. I just think, like, remember back in the old days on YouTube where it was like, you would go to the YouTube video, you click it, and then it would start? That's a very weird thing. Man, remember that time period? That's crazy. Now, you could technically go, okay, but if you do a sponsorship segment, it's like you can begin it with the sponsor, or you can end, and then you can end it with, like, you going full on with what the sponsor says. It's like, we'll get back to that in a second. Next issue is copyright. That's another reason why I don't do ads or sponsorships. And copyright is one of the big ones. And let me just start off with this. Copyright is bullshit. I don't mean the copyright system on YouTube itself is bullshit. No. I mean, like, copyright itself is bullshit. I'll be going over some of that possibly next year. I have 2 videos on this subject possibly going out next year. They're going to be interesting. They're going to be hot. They're going to be really hot takes. But I also do have a previous podcast where I explain my perspective on copyright. I have changed a little bit on my issues of copyright. But, I mean, generally, that is another reason why I can't do it. Now, you might be wondering, huh? Why? You don't really put that much copywritten material in your videos, if at all. To which is like, yeah, I kind of do, but not really. If you know my channel, you know that there are some times where I do put some copyrighted materials in my video, and that's where things get a little complicated as well. Because, like, what? Like, define copywritten material. Because if you're technical, some of those pictures that I put in the channel, in the videos, technically those are copywritten as well. Especially in my 2 most recent videos. I included a picture that literally has, like, a watermark on it that literally shows that it is not, like, it's from historic images. And it's like, yeah, it literally has a watermark over it, and you're supposed to pay for, like, the real version. And it's like, I don't care, because I just have to give a really hot take. I don't believe, I genuinely am at the point where I'm just like, yeah, a very hot take. I genuinely am starting to be like, I don't believe in copyright at all. I think it's all bullshit. I have 2 videos coming out, again, 2 videos possibly coming out in the near future. By near future, I mean, like, next year, where I literally go over my issues with copyright. One with me dealing with the issues of copyright in general, and the other one dealing with a particular copyright infringement. I don't want to give away which one it is just yet, but I think you probably piece together which form of infringement I'm referring to. If I use the title that I originally wanted to, I would get in a hell of a lot of trouble. But I do have some videos that have gotten some copyright troubles. Some have somehow managed to slip under the radar, some have not. Like, in my most recent one, in one of my most recent videos, the World War I video, I mean, there should be an element of copyright infringement in there, because this is one of the things I learned about the copyright thing. It's like one of the big things that a lot of people use for copyright, like, oh yeah, well, fair use. But like, what is fair use? If you actually look into the definition of fair use, it is very loose what is defined as fair use, and essentially can mean whatever the fucking copyright holder wants to mean fair use. If I use any form of copyrighted material, people could say that that's copyright infringement. Even though there's some, like, kind of loose rules, it can literally mean whatever the copyright holder wants. And I've explained this in my previous copyright episode before. Copyright holder has all the power, and people like me do not. And I have at least 11 videos thus far that have copyright claims on them. And if you use the official, if you accept the copyright system as it is, all of them are kind of deserved. Not gonna lie. I don't remember all of them off the top of my head, but like I remember like one was on accident where I just included footage of like the DNC like riots during 1968, and apparently that footage, at least maybe that footage in that exact order, was used in a documentary about the 1968 DNC. But I remember them just being like footage from the DNC riot. I don't know why that's like copyrighted footage. A lot of them are basically my screw-up videos where I have the Weird Al song, Everything You Know Is Wrong. I play just enough that it gets flagged. Now, the problem is, like, the thing is, like, for the most part, like, I get no problems. Like, usually they just say, like, hey, it just shows that this has copyright material on it, and we just put it in the description. It's like, cool, I'm perfectly fine with that. In fact, I'd go so far as to say, if the YouTube copyright system literally just did that for literally every form of copyright infringement, I would be 100% okay with that. If it, like, didn't affect the video's view, and it didn't affect, like, the video's visibility, and it literally just said, hey, this video has this song in it, in the bottom, great. Automatic, like, attribution to the original author, great. Like, I mean, and this might come from the fact that YouTube has changed a little bit of how their automatic copyright system has been since the Where's the Fair Use and Make YouTube Great Again campaigns of yesteryear. But I genuinely, like, one of the reasons why I think that I'm able to do some of this stuff under the radar is because of the fact that I don't have ads and I don't have sponsorships. Because I don't make money directly from my YouTube channel. I do not make money directly from the Pluribus Unum at Pluribus Unum YT YouTube channel. If I did, then I think YouTube would have a lot more problems with me. Like, my big project video, I was being risky with a lot of the stuff that I put in there, because I was like, I know for a fact that I know that there have been people who have done significantly less than me that have gotten, like, heftier problems with the YouTube copyright system, but I managed to slip under the radar somehow. Now, if there was an ad before that video, I think YouTube would probably pay attention to that, because that's, again, where their bottom line is. YouTube didn't start caring about the fucking, like, far-right fascist YouTube channels that they were promoting until they saw that their ads were being put on it, and due to that fact, advertisers started pulling out from YouTube. That's when they started caring. And in the same vein, they don't care about me until I literally start making money off of my YouTube channel. Much in the same way, now YouTube doesn't even let you even get into the ad space without getting at least 1K subs and, like, a certain amount of watch time. And the last reason why I don't really do ads is kind of a reason why I thought that a lot of left-tubers didn't do ads until I learned that a lot of left-tubers did use ads, did start doing ads a lot of recently. And it's the fact that as a left-wing YouTuber, ads and sponsorships feel weird, right? They feel weird, right? First, very obvious weirdness of capitalism. Like, I'm not a capitalist. I don't believe in, like, the notion of capitalism. So selling out to the capitalist bourgeois and selling out to, like, a rich, like, company, it's a bit weird, right? And another one that comes from this is, how can you really trust me to give you a political viewpoint 100% like off the cuff when, for all intents and purposes, I start selling out? I mean, I know that there's an off chance that the products that I promote would be good, that I could shill for, like, great, wonderful, I love these products. I mean, for example, a lot of left tubers, or a lot of history YouTubers in general, promote ground news. It doesn't necessarily seem like that bad of a product, but it's like, what if ground news was a bad product? And then, how are you supposed to trust me to, like, promote it? Like, there are a lot of YouTubers that literally had a lot of, like, street cred, and they all started promoting a literal scam. Like, what's it called? I forget what it's called. It was like a land scheme where, like, they were literally like, hey, we're gonna sell you land in Ireland. And it's like, a lot of YouTubers literally just started, like, promoting it. Like, you could be a lord of land in Ireland or, like, Scotland or whatever. It's like, that sounds like a scam, doesn't it? And sure enough, it was a scam. Established Titles was the brand. And there's another one. A lot of YouTubers promote BetterHelp, even though it was literally proven like a long time ago. Like BetterHelp, wasn't that was literally proven to be like a scam, right? Like fake, right? Like wasn't that literally proven? And like all the YouTubers, they still just promote BetterHelp. If I were to start like doing sponsorships and stuff, I'd have to look into every single brand that I do. Like, are they ethical? Do they meet my criteria? I mean, sure, it's easy for a lot of these YouTubers to like just sell out and just be like, yeah, I'll just promote this thing, whatever, I don't care. But not for me. I actually care about the stuff that I do. In the same way, like even though I'm far from even remotely doing this, I've started looking at people to potentially do merch with. Now, when I say I've looked at people to do merch with, what I mean is I've tried to find like places like, you know, like how like places that are like ethical that I could outsource possible ideas for merch with. And when it's very, I again am in no position to do merch. I'm in no position to do merch. I can't do merch. I don't have I don't have literally any ability to do merch. But I basically just started looking at websites. It's like, hey, are there ethical websites that I can put my logo on and then like get merch off of them? And it's like I found 2 that are pretty cool. But again, not in the position to do merch. And like again, like it doesn't even matter if I think that the product really is good and really is effective. Can you trust me about that product or trust me about this brand when I'm literally being paid to do that? Especially when they're giving me a script to literally say like, hey, you have to read these talking points about this thing. So it's like, how can you trust me to like do the thing? How can you trust me? Much in the same way, it's like, oh yeah, like all these YouTubers that say the same thing but Raid Shadow Legends. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you fucking love Raid Shadow Legends, man. Like, I'm holding myself to the same account that I do this. Like, we don't, like when we see a politician that, like, is bought by a particular industry, then we distrust them, right? Why is it not the same for our YouTubers and our, like, influencers? Why is it not the same? Why did they get a pass to get, like, bought and paid for by all these different people, but then magically we have to hold our politicians to a different account? We have a similar thing where it's like, oh yeah, we can't trust any of these people who are on like RT because they're paid for by the Russian government. Okay, yeah, cool. So what if this Russian brand gives them money? Do we trust this person now? Well, that's a little different. Is it really though? I know there are a lot of differences, but like, you get what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying, right? One of the most glaring examples in my mind was Second Thought. Like, Second Thought was like the only left tuber that I even remotely saw that just openly did ads. I think Xanderhall did an ad at one point, but for the most part, he relies on like stream donations. But Second Thought was one of the most glaring fucking problems because he would like just unironically do ads for all this other stuff, and it would be like weird. There's like a very famous video of like Second Thought where it's like the end of his essay where he's like, on this, we need to talk about how the troubles of capitalism are very daring and how our corporate elite overlords are like secretly trying to like influence them, blah blah blah. And then it fades to black, and then it fades back in, and he says, today's episode would not be possible without the support of this shave club. It wasn't Dollar Shave Club, but it was a different shaving brand. And it's like, yeah, doesn't that seem like weird? Doesn't that seem weird, right? That seems weird, right? Much in the same way, it's weird when Angry Video Game Nerd's like, we're gonna talk about how this game is a big piece of fucking bullshit, but today we're gonna be sponsored by this game, Raid Shadow Legends. I love this game. This game is amazing. Blah, 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 blah. How can you trust his opinion on this thing when this other thing is literally, like, influencing you? Granted, it appears that Second Thought might have changed everything, because I checked out a very recent video, and his, like, opening is like, this channel is 100% bought to you by our patrons, and it's like, oh, did he stop doing ads? That's interesting. And on that same token, yeah, I believe Patreon fits the MO of me and other leftist creators than doing ads and doing sponsorships. Because, again, it just seems like more good. Granted, it hasn't been doing well for me. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? But the idea of Patreon is a good one, where all of these people come together to help a creator they really like keep doing the thing that they are doing, and to keep fighting a good fight, and to do all this stuff. Especially, again, if it's a political creator, yeah. And again, if it's a left-wing creator, that's another thing. It's like the same with Bernie. Like, the fact that his political campaign raised a ton of money based on small dollar donors, that's inspiring, right? Yeah, it would be inspiring, wouldn't it, guys? And yes, this video is a ploy to get you guys to subscribe to me on Patreon. And this is the part where a lot of you start clicking off of it, when this is the part where I think you guys should probably pay attention to the most. Look, I know, it is very drab to e-bag. It's very drab. It's very, very, very drab for me to like e-bag, which is why I don't do it as much. I don't do it a lot. I do it very rarely. I do it like literally like every so often. Like once in a blue moon, apparently, or whatever. I make like a tweet or a post saying like, hey, you should sub to me on Patreon or something like that. Aside from like at the end of the videos where I say, if you're interested in more content from me, you can subscribe to me on Patreon. Like, you know, it's aside from that, I basically just kind of don't really like do a lot to like advertise a Patreon, really. And it's especially drab because I know a lot of you are basically in the same boat as me. I've seen my subscriber base. I've seen what they are, like 18 to 20 something, like 18 to 24-year-old males. Like that's basically a majority of my subscriber base. Like, so a lot of you are probably in the same boat as me. But I mean, I just gotta. I've tried to be as upfront. I've tried to be as blatant as I have been in the previous ones. But I've always tried to like restrain and neuter myself on this message. But I just gotta be upfront. I've said this before. For some reason, nobody listens to me. Things don't change. Things end. I gotta be upfront. I'm just being blunt with you. If things don't change on your end, I'm gonna have to change things on my end. And one of the most drastic changes is literally just ending. Like, that's it. Like, that's literally it. I've been as conciliatory and as nice as I've been for a long period of time, but you guys haven't been giving me much to go off of. Like, I mean, literally, it's like either just a post or a video saying, hey guys, sorry, but you failed me. Goodbye. Or a simple go over to delete channel button and go. I mean, yeah. You ain't giving me much to go with. I mean, the Bad Bunny rant, the rant of like Kira Chat / Bad Bunny is like, yeah, she be spitting, guys. There are a lot of you here. I mean, anything would be useful. And this has been in my head for years. That's why I started the Patreon initially. Like, maybe I can actually make this into a thing. And, I mean, to an extent, you guys are going on your third strike. I gotta be upfront with you guys. You got 3 strikes. You fucked up 2 of them. The Silhouettes of the Past story arc from last year, where I literally was just like, hey, guys, I'm very depressed. I'm very demotivated of making videos. Maybe if you guys showed some support, maybe I could continue. Magically, no support comes in, my friends. Then I go, hey, I'm going to spend a lot of my year focusing on a 4-hour video essay. Maybe then there'll be much more support and people will be like, wow, that's genuinely nice. You put in this much effort into this channel for us, the viewers, to watch. Maybe we should reward you for your kind effort. Nope, that ain't happened either, my friends. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3's coming soon, my friends. Like, literally, on both of those projects, I promised myself, if things don't change by this project, then I will quit. Like, I mean, I hate to say it, yeah. I said that. When I made those projects, I made it with the intention in my mind. If they don't change things on this channel, I will quit. Will I actually quit? I don't know. If I do, then that would be an objective proof of failure on my end. Because it would literally prove to me that I wasted 6 years of my life on nothing. And as the years go on, it just keeps getting proven to me every day since. Like, I mean, I'm sorry, guys, but we watch every single one of it. I don't fucking care. I don't care that you watch all my videos. I don't care. I know for a fact you don't also. I know for a fact you guys don't. The videos do not have consistent video, like, one. They do not have consistent ones. Video 1, 18K views. Next vid, 600 views. Wow, call it a hunch, but I don't think a lot of you guys returned for that video. I mean, I have given literally 6 years of my life on this channel with basically nothing in return. That's the problem. I'm putting everything in, getting nothing out of it. And then you guys are gonna be like, dance, monkey, dance. Time to get back to work to do more of this. When I had fucking tiny, minuscule subscriber numbers, it made sense. But I have 1,000 subs now. Guys, you do know, literally, just objectively, if all of you donated $1, I would literally get $1,000, almost $2,000 a month. Like, literally, even just the baseline of that would be somewhat useful to me. I mean, this would be barely a thing if, like, there were people fucking hiring in this position in the world, apparently, but no one wants to do that either. I've tried to do things to, like, keep a job that kind of, like, would keep my interest here on YouTube by literally going around and be like, hey, guys, I am interested in being an editor for other people. Will anybody possibly hire me? And then for some reason, that magically makes people go like, hey, I want to be an editor for you. It's like, I didn't ask for that. I asked for you to need an editor. And then literally people will randomly show up and then won't tell me what the fucking project is. And I can't even get hired for anything else here. Like, guys, I've gotten to the point where I'm literally just saying, okay, guys, how about this? Maybe I'll just fucking nuke the entire YouTube channel and post exclusively on Patreon. Would you guys like that? Remember that poll that I just posted where it's like, which party history video would you want me to do next? Guess what, guys? To spite you guys, if you guys don't get a certain number of money to me on Patreon, I'm not doing that video ever. I'm making it abundantly clear. If I do not get a certain amount of money on Patreon, I'm not going to tell you what the amount is, just to purposely fuck you guys even more. But if I don't get that amount of money by a certain date, I'm not going to tell you when the date is either. But if I don't get it, then that video will never happen. That Farmer Labor Party video will literally never happen. If I sound like I'm full of spite, yeah, kinda am. When I see a world where literally the fucking, like, worst people will get, like, millions of dollars on Patreon, meanwhile, I'll be like, hey, I'm gonna be a stand-up citizen for my morals and for my beliefs, and get, like, pennies in return, you better damn believe that I'm gonna be spiteful. Especially when I made it a little clear previously about all my issues, and people still kind of just go, nah, I'm just gonna not do it. Like, guys, all this, like, watching videos, liking videos, means literally jack shit to me. They're just numbers on a screen. If you're gonna give me numbers on a screen, give me the numbers on my Patreon next to the $sign that actually dictates something useful. These numbers would have probably been nice to me in, like, my first 3 years when I literally did this for completely free without any way for you to donate to me regardless. But now, I need the donations. Like, bruh, I'm halfway to literally just being like, yeah, let's just sell out, who cares? Again, I'm putting everything in, I'm getting nothing out of it. You're giving me no option. And it's really stupid, because I'll post, like, a link and be like, hey guys, here's my Patreon so you can subscribe to me. And then I'll get, like, 10 likes on that post, and it's like, huh, I only have 3 patrons. And it's like, yeah, I get it, yeah, a lot of other people are struggling, but, like, yeah. Either ignore it or don't do anything. Like, just ignore it at this point. If you see me post a thing about my Patreon, and then just ignore it, and don't come into here with the comments and be like, oh, you say I would, but no. If you're not going to say yes, then don't comment. If you're struggling, I don't want to hear it. Yeah, if you're struggling, that stinks. Yeah, great, wonderful. Hopefully things get better for you. But I also don't want to hear that. I mean, might as well do the whole, like, hey, this dude's the next Bad Bunny. I don't care. I don't care. Bad Bunny be spitting in her video. I don't care. She'd be spitting. I literally was gonna make a fucking, like, video where I literally edited my logo in front of her face and then do the same thing. Yeah. She'd be spitting. Anyways, I'm ranting and rambling. Donate to my Patreon, or else this channel will end by the end of the year. Not kidding. Probably. I don't know. I have literally nothing else going on in my life right now, so either way, you're probably just gonna be sitting here watching me forever, and nothing will change.